And welcome back, everybody, to the Podcaster Nation. That's right. I said welcome back because I know you were just listening to our stuff and you came back for more. Well, you know what? We have more for you. We have a lot more for you. Got a great guest today. He's all hopped up on an energy drink. I'm pretty sure he's ready to tear through this, knock everything down. I love talking to these young guys who are just full of juice because it's going to be a great episode. I can already tell. Folks, this is the place where we do, it's about podcasters. It's for podcasters. It's done by podcasters. My guest today is a podcaster. And this is the place where the rising tide raises all ships. This is what we do. We work together, we come together, and we help each other. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and rock and roll. I want to introduce you to our guest today. He is the COO of Human Op, which I know he's going to tell you guys all about. And he's also the host of Harmonious at Lunch, a really cool podcast with a ton of episodes, which we're also going to talk about. Please welcome to the show, Brandon Gano. Brandon, how you doing?
Rory, so good. I don't have that many energy drinks in me. A lot of coffee though. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm ready to go, but energy, you find that when you drink energy drinks, they make you jittery? I have a couple and I'm shaking. So
Yeah,
none
it
for me.
kills me. But like I said, my kids, my boys, drink them like water, and they don't even phase them anymore. So I'm a little worried. But yeah, I
Should be.
can't even
Yeah, I
handle it.
think I think I'm at that tipping point in age where I can't have too many energy drinks because they make me shake. But the coffee I can still do. I can pound at least 3 cups and be all right.
Good deal. Good deal. Brandon, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. I know we got a lot to talk about. Before we get rolling into everything that you're doing, tell everybody who is, Brandon Gano, and what are you about, and what brings you here today?
I'm about a little bit more than coffee and energy drinks, but I do like to have a good time. I love business. Honestly, I've been a serial entrepreneur. I've started businesses, I've failed in business, I've sold businesses, I've been acquired, and I love everything business. I'll take you briefly through my entrepreneurial career after college. I went into running and managing a family business, decided that I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I jumped into owning my own business. That one I was able to grow very quickly, actually turn into a franchise. Long story short, franchise didn't work out. We could dive in there if you want, but it's a fun, messy story. Decided the industry wasn't for me, sold my other business, and then went into fractional COO consulting with a business partner. That's where I really started to fall in love with business all over again, but from a different angle of like actually helping people. And I discovered my superpower, if you will, of really being able to spot and solve problems in a way that it's unique to me. I'm not going to say it's the most unique way in the world, but it comes naturally to me. And I fell in love with it because you go into someone's business, they could be struggling with something for days, months, years, and you're able to help them get over that in a matter of weeks or sometimes shorter. And it's this super cool feeling. That to me is it's the alternative to caffeine. Like that's what gets me up in the morning. Knowing that you can actually help somebody overcome a problem in their business helps them, helps their employees, helps their family. So much fun. And then recently we got acquired by Human Op. I'm the COO, my business partner, former business partner is the CEO of Human Op. We're running this ship now, and it's just such a fun project to be able to do this for our own company with our own methodology and also still help clients at the same time.
I love that answer, and I love your delivery. I got to be honest, and the emotion that you have in it. I've been in sales most of my life, and that's a long time. But when you start to talk about stuff that you love, there's a certain tone that you have, and I
Yeah.
love listening to somebody talk about business who really loves his business, and it's just coming right off you, man. But tell everybody what is Human Op? What's the story there? What's it about?
Yeah, Human Op is crazy. Let's start there. I actually encountered Human Op during the time before I sold that previous business. So they've been around for 20, or the technology's been around for 20 years. HumanOp as a company has been around for the last 10. The technology is patented. Think about it kind of like a personality assessment, but on steroids, and then throw out everything you think about personality assessments. So it's like that, but it's a tool that's based in physical law, not subjective answers to a questionnaire. So we ask you questions like, what's the shape of your jawline? What's the shape of your nose? What are the color of your eyes and your hair? And from that, the algorithm on the back end can actually accurately pinpoint who and what you are as a human being. So It's fascinating, it's weird, it's crazy, it's very creepy. I want to put that out there too. That was my first reaction when I first encountered it. But we use this technology to help people understand who they are because as human beings, the blessing and the curse is that we can learn to do anything and be relatively proficient at it in a very short period of time. And the curse is that very same thing. There are some things you should do that you're naturally designed to do, and there's other things that just drain you of energy. And you know you can probably think of a couple of things that you have to do in business or for your podcast that just kill your energy.
Yeah.
We're able to bring that into the workplace and help leaders identify, what are those things for themselves, but also every member of their team. And what we did, this pivot that we made, and the reason myself and Sean, my business partner who I mentioned, were brought in, is because Human Ops only worked with the elite of the elite for the past 20 years, the biggest companies in the world, the wealthiest individuals in the world, and the whole goal was seeing, how powerful the technology was for them and how much it improved their lives, their companies, and to be able to bring that to the small business, the medium-sized business, the everyday entrepreneur, so to speak. And we went with an app and a SaaS model. So we're going to the masses rather than going to the top. And it's just something that resonates with all of us on the team. So it was a no-brainer for me when I encountered the technology for the first time. As I mentioned, it was in that other business, and I was playing small. I was in these nurtured patterns where I thought you had to work hard to get ahead, and you had to be a good leader by showing people you could do the work. And I'm not saying that those things are fundamentally wrong, but for me, it was those things were draining me of energy and actually limiting my business. So I met with Wei, one of the co-founders of Human Op, and he gave me my assessment results. That's how I know it's very creepy the first time you hear it. And he basically told me how I was naturally designed and gave me the path to step into that. And I was able to 3x my business over the next 2 years just because I was unleashed, so to speak. I could confidently go out to the world and be who I was meant to be without hiding and playing small because that's just how I was raised. So that's sort of the overview of Humanop, but it really did change my life 3 years ago when I encountered it, and now I'm just on this mission to get it out to the world.
Interesting. Now, and you've got a link that we'll have in the show notes where people can do this for themselves, right? They can take their own assessment.
Yeah, so our bread and butter is working with business owners, leaders, the small and medium businesses that I told you about. But we do have a just a general app or an app for the general consumer. It's free to use. Humanop.com. Go there and you can download the app, take the assessment, and you can actually interact with our AI. We've built a custom AI brain that you can interact with for free. So ask it questions about yourself, and it's like having one of these trained practitioners in your pocket, which is super cool.
Okay. So you're right. It's a little bit creepy, especially to, somebody like me. I'm an old school, old dog, but I get the value of these things. So I want to you start off by asking the questions, talking about like, okay, your jawline, your hair color. That's to establish a baseline of some kind and see how you describe yourself. Is that
Yeah,
kind of the idea behind it?
it's to understand the foundation of what physical characteristics you exhibit. So if you think about the easiest way to understand this is we use the analogy of a vehicle all the time. If you think about looking at a Ferrari and looking at a Hummer, instinctively you know that these two things are not alike and they perform entirely differently. The
Right.
Ferrari is definitely not going off-roading, and the Hummer is for sure not going 200 miles an hour. So just
Right.
at a glance, we know that. Well, if you rewind the clock on human history, before we got so evolved and advanced, we could actually spot these differences in people. If someone looked a little sharper, like a Ferrari, so to speak, you could tell they were probably a quick processor. They're really good at operating quickly with speed, with accuracy. And if someone's maybe a little bit bulkier, like a Hummer, they're a little bit more durable. I'm oversimplifying this here, but those things still exist in human beings, and we've been able to decode that and put it into a mathematical equation. So the way you answer these physical questions will give us that baseline for the algorithm to say, okay, this is the physical frame, the vehicle we're working with. Now let's understand what other features are involved with that human being. And that's so the assessment is broken into roughly three parts. So you have the physical foundation, you have the features and the volume of those features, and that's sort of the second two-thirds of the assessment.
Hmm. I mean, that's fascinating. So you were 100% serious. It is based on physical traits that this
100%
whole thing
serious.
starts with. Wow. That's really interesting. Um, so it sounds like it's the physical trait and then what the fact that the person has that physical trait, what that says about them and about their behavior is because you're doing predictive behavior models, right?
It's actually not predictive. It's all backed by science. It's a patent. It's the only patented assessment in the world. So we've proven this over and over and over again. It's
Okay.
over 99% accurate. The only times where it's really not is if someone A lies. So we can't, I mean, we can't prevent lying. It will show
Okay.
up as it, the person will show up as toxic, so to speak. Like we can tell that they're lying, but that's where it would be not accurate. Or if they've had a serious brain injury or trauma that's caused disfiguration of the physical nature.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, it's not predictive, it's not behavioral. We're saying that these tendencies are based in physical law, physical reality, and based on which of them you exhibit and the volume that you exhibit them, because every human being looks unique, right? That's how we can analyze what you have access to, what traits you have access to, what drives your behavior. And we're able to predict behavior, but that's not the goal of the assessment.
Okay. As someone who's been in sales forever, I've taken, I'd like to say hundreds, but to be completely accurate, I'm sure it's at least dozens of
Okay.
these, personality exam profile things over the years. They're all a little bit different, but then they're all kind of the same. Does your version take the place of that, like new and improved, to say, hey, this is how this person will do this particular job, this task in your company? Because I know that you said that your target is really the mid-range business.
Yeah. Same. First of all, I've taken a million of them, and yes, I'm exaggerating too. But I mean, we've analyzed that there's over 150 different assessment tools out there. They all have a place. I'm not going to argue that. Technically speaking, you could replace all of them with ours. Again, because it's patented, because it's based in physical law, it's the only one you can really trust with that level of accuracy and certainty. You don't have to though. If you love Disc or you love Enneagram or name your tool, right? You could still use it. You're just use it in combination. You're going to get a much more precise result. So if you want to use, we'll use Disc because that's just an easy example. If you want to understand someone's communication style, that's actually a subset of our results that we produce. You could layer Disc on top of it and make Disc more precise. Do you have to use Disc? No, absolutely not. You can 100% replace it. I don't want to advocate that we're a full replacement for all of these things because that would be that would basically be like saying it's my way or the highway. You can never do anything else. You can't experiment. You can't combine things. That's no fun, right? We don't want to do that. I want to mix my chicken with lemon juice and see what happens. And maybe it'll taste good, maybe it won't. But yes, you absolutely can. I will say though, if you're using it in a hiring context, in a role design, in a team compatibility context, all of these things where you have people in the workplace, it's going to give you the most precise result, and it's also going to be the one where we don't burn people out in the long run. Because when
Hmm.
you take those other assessments, kind of one of the downsides with them is they don't distinguish between strong state and weak state behavior. So we'll go back to the Ferrari and the Hummer real quick. If I if you only drive the Ferrari off road and you assess it on its ability to drive off road, it might be great, but you have no idea that that car was not designed to be driven off road. And that's what the other assessments do. I remember when I took Myers-Briggs for the first time,
Right.
I showed up as, I think it was called the architect. I don't remember the letters that were associated with it, but it's like this person who's super concerned with the fine details and making sure things are perfect. And it's someone who's like really going to get work done and do it really, really well. Turns out that's not me at all. That's actually a weak state expression of me, but that's how I was nurtured to behave by my parents and my family. When I took the human op assessment, that showed up as a red box for me. Is you're actually in a behavior that's called manipulation, that we call manipulation. And that's the micromanager, not a good leader by any means, trying to control outcomes and just be overbearing on everything. Well, that's terrible. If I hire somebody who's supposed to be the architect, but it turns out they're actually manipulating the rest of the team, that's a disaster for the workplace. So that kind of stuff is where we really start to excel and take a leap forward because that person or the people around them are going to burn out. They're going to get frustrated. We can say, no, here's how we can prevent it. Here's how everyone should interact, what they should lean into, what they shouldn't be doing. And that stuff is what helps the workplace operate at a higher, more sustainable level.
Interesting. So individuals can also use this as a form of self-improvement, self-development by getting a hard look at themselves and hearing from an objective viewpoint based on physical characteristics where we may want to lean in and where some of our weaknesses may lie.
Absolutely. And it's a great tool for that too, because we'll go back to what I said earlier. As humans, we think we can do everything because we can. Should we is the question. What I was what I was able to do when I first encountered the technology was surround myself with the people who needed to fill in the gaps for me. I'm supposed to be a leader. I'm not supposed to be the micromanager and the doer in the fine details. So I found those people and I said, I really need you guys to specialize in this stuff because it's not my thing. Something's going to get overlooked, balls are going to get dropped, and products are going to go out the door wrong. And we can't have that. It's going to damage our reputation. And I said, I don't need you to do anything else. I need you to be you. I'm hiring you to be who you naturally are and excel at that thing. And as a team, as a unit, we will perform at a higher level. So it's the permission to do what you probably instinctively know is how you're designed and what's right because you feel it. You can feel the difference. But it's seeing those results and then leaning into it and trying it, practicing it, and actually building your life around who you naturally are, how you're naturally designed. It's very powerful what can happen in even a short period of time, as little as 60 to 90 days.
Wow. All right. I mean, that honestly, that's fascinating. I love doing what I do because I don't ever have an episode where I don't learn something. And now I'm really looking forward to taking your little free exam to
Yeah,
find out
check it out. I would
what
encourage you
it
to
says.
check it
So
out and call me out on my BS. If you get your results back and they're wrong, you're like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I'll come back on. You tell me live and we'll put it out to the world that it's a stupid assessment.
I don't anticipate that happening because honestly, like I said before, you seem like you're a pretty sharp guy. So I got a feeling this is legit. I am a little curious. How do you end up here developing this sort of thing? I mean, did you set out to say this is exactly what I want to, build and put together and do, or is this the result of something else that led to something else type of thing?
Rory, I ask myself that question every single day. Like, how in the world am I here right now? But seriously, I kind of do. If you connect the dots and follow the path, I know I briefly told my story before, but it makes no sense. I did not want to be here. I did not. It wasn't my aim growing up to, or even in college, to be involved with human behavior and workplace dynamics. Like if you asked me that even 5 years ago, I would have said, "You're crazy that I would be here right now doing this." But if you go back to at my what if days, the fractional COO days, it was only about a year ago. We were working with this client and she was having some people challenges on her leadership team. Company was pretty big company, performing really well, just couldn't seem to get to that next level. And she didn't know if it was her, if it was the people on her team. And I said, I took this assessment a couple of years ago and I met this guy that honestly might be able to help. So myself and my business partner, Sean, he's designed a business architecture or a business operating system that's a very simple way to run a scalable business. Think about EOS or the E-Myth or the 4Ds of execution, all these business methodologies, kind of like that, just dumbed down so the everyday business owner could use it and really excel with it. The one piece of that puzzle we could never crack was the human being piece, which is the most critical piece of any business because you don't know what a human being's going to do, how they're going to perform with others. So we called in Wei from HumanOp, Wei and Lisa. We started working together, and the results blew us both out of the water. We were like, hang on, when you plug this thing into our business architecture, the results do what? And they said the same thing. They're like, hang on, when you tack your business architecture onto this thing, the people do what? And we were both, the four of us had to take a step back and say, there might be something here. And then we did it with another client, and the same thing happened. And that's when they approached us and said, "Hey, we really want you guys to help us run this company and scale HumanOp, bring it into the SaaS and app model, but also take this Harmonious thing you're doing, and we need to get that out to the world because combined with the HumanOp technology, there's nothing like it. There's no way on the planet other than this combination to really grow and scale a business exponentially. I mean, there's a lot of big companies out there, but Sean's worked in a lot of them. He's consulted for the Nikes, the Ubers, the Johnson and Johnsons of the world, and the one piece he could never solve was the people. And Wei and Lisa have worked in these big companies, the Fortune 50 companies, and they didn't really touch the operations. When you marry the two, people and process, and you do it right, magic happens. And that's really where we how we got to where we are today. It was a complete coincidence and almost an accident just because I couldn't solve a problem and I called a friend for a favor and this magic happened.
I love that. That's a great story. Right place, right time, but you
Yeah.
earned it all the way, you know. So that's just fantastic, man. It really is. And as the accomplished podcast host that you are, you laid down the perfect segue. So let's go ahead and ask you about your podcast, Harmonious at Lunch. Now that you mentioned to me that it has a link to your business, but it's not necessarily uh, about the business of human ops. Tell us about your podcast and you know what you do there and which purpose is with that.
Yeah, so I started the podcast. I wanted to start a podcast because I said this might be a cool way to honestly get leads. That was my original thought because someone
Okay,
came to me and said, "You got to have a podcast. It'll get your face out there. You'll get leads." And I was like, "All right, well, that sounds interesting. Let me try it." But then I had this thought, do I really want to be the expert, so to speak, and just get on here and verbal vomit for 30 minutes or 60 minutes? I don't have that much information. I'm not that smart. I appreciate the compliment, Tori, but I'm really not that intelligent. So I was like, no, definitely don't want to do that. But I could interview people. That would be awesome. So I went that route. And then I started looking at all these other podcasts and I was like, wow, they have so many episodes and you're really like nothing until you get to episode 50 even. I said, okay, if I do one a week, I'll get there in a year. I hate that idea. If I do two a week, I'll get there in a half a year. But then I said, well, 50 is not really a cool number, but 100 is a cool number. Crap, I'm back to a year of podcasting before I get to 100. No, better calculation. I want to get there in like 7 days. So I sat down, I bulk recorded all these episodes, and that was, I don't know why, but that was the number in my head of quote unquote success. It's like when you have triple digit podcasts out, then you are successful. You have a podcast, you can talk about it. It's a real thing. And for those of you listening who are not there yet or who have passed this mark, it's all made up. Everything I just said was complete BS, and I have some serious therapy to go through, obviously. But I don't know why. That's the path it took on. Did not result in leads one bit, but what it did result in was really great conversations and meeting amazing people. And same as you, I there's not an episode that goes by where I don't learn something from somebody. Um, but putting out 5 episodes a week is insane. So it's this blessing and a curse, right? Like I've met so many people. I've met over 350 incredible people, heard their stories, heard their tips, their advice. Some of it works for me, some of it doesn't, but the listeners love it. Same thing. Some works, some doesn't. It's just about that variety and what it's turned into something so much bigger and more impactful than I thought it was, and honestly than it was designed to do in the beginning. But definitely wouldn't change a thing as far as where it's at now. It's just still it's insane to put out 5 episodes a week. That's I'm gonna rest on that one.
I'm not going to disagree with you. It is difficult to do. I do it for two podcasts, and it's Yeah, it's a labor of love, so to speak. But now, having spent a little more time with you now, and understanding the way you just really, really love business and the things that are about business and the concepts and everything else, I understand your podcast a little bit more. I was listening to one of your episodes where you were going back and forth with a gentleman about how he was comparing the state of business to Dante's Inferno.
That was a cool episode, wasn't
It
it?
was a cool episode, and but I also noticed that at the beginning you were kind of like, "I'm not buying it. I'm not quite getting this." Convince me. I mean, you kind of challenged him a little bit to say, all right, explain this to me because I don't know if business really is the seven layers of hell, but he put up a really good argument and I understood a lot of what he was doing, but I loved the way you handled that because you just, I don't know, I couldn't tell if maybe you were offended by the thought when you started or what, but now that I get this, it's like, is the podcast about like networking and is that what you do for enjoyment?
That's a great question. I would say there's definitely a piece of that. I mean, I've met so many strategic partners, referral partners. I've spoken in other people's communities who were guests on my show. They've spoken in our community. So there is that aspect of it. I really do love it's twofold, right? I want to hear other perspectives because I know I'm not that smart and I haven't heard everything. So if someone comes on the show, as a matter of fact, we had an episode a couple of weeks ago where I'm currently reading the guy's book. His name's Steve McKinney. His book is The Gospel of Fitness. He's a
Oh,
pastor and a fitness coach, and he told me that this crazy way to get fit and in shape that I'd never heard of before, and it's perfect for people like me who drink way too much caffeine. You work out twice a week for 15 minutes, and I was like, there's no way. And I'm reading his book and I'm trying it. I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard because I hate being in the gym. So that's a great way for me to hear something that I probably never would have heard, talk to the guy face to face. But then the other side of that too is I'm getting to hear people's stories from them and not so much to challenge them in the aspect of Alexander and Dante's Inferno. That was just pure curiosity. And I was like, I there might be something here, but I'm not buying it at the beginning, like you said. But yeah, being able to hear someone's story from them, ask them about it, ask the follow-up questions, and do it live and do it so other people could hear it. It's just so cool. It really is. It's like I don't know if you said the word hobby, but that's the word that I heard. It is a hobby at this point. It really does light me up.
yeah, you heard that. I didn't say
That's
it.
I
But
want to fully admit that. Yeah, sometimes I
yeah,
hear
but
words and we're gonna roll with it.
I got you. But I can tell that it's something you do because you love doing it. That it's just it's enjoyment for you. Now, it does actually help some. It is connected in some way and does help with Human Up in terms of, I mean, you are building a referral network. You are still marketing, through it, right? In what ways do these things play together?
I do love to see the big picture, and it's something I'm naturally gifted at. If we go back to my assessment results from earlier, but I had to take a step back after it was probably 75, 100 episodes and really figure out, okay, where does this play in? Because it's definitely not what I set out to do. It's not what I set out as it didn't play out the way I designed it to be. So, take a step back, redo the plan, see what the players on the field are doing, and reassess. So it's I have a Rolodex like nobody else. I'm convinced, and you do too. And everyone else who podcasts and has guests on, they have a Rolodex like no other. Because out of 350 people, I can call 345 of them, no problem, and they're going to answer the phone. And that's just the people on this podcast. I've had others. I have other networking groups. Like
No.
that's really powerful, especially when you're consulting and helping other businesses. Because I know that no matter the situation I encounter with one of our clients, I have somebody I can call who I have a personal relationship with. It's not a Google search to say, who can help me with SEO in my business? we've probably had 4 or 5 episodes, and I can call any one of them and know that they will solve that problem. And I have a high level of confidence in those people. It's also great for hearing where else they're speaking, what other podcasts they're getting on, what other stages they're getting on, what problems they're encountering with their clients. And it helps me kind of anticipate things for our clients. We've had a couple of CFOs or similar type roles on the podcast, and one of the things that always resonates with them is the exit plan of a business, right? Well, we have a couple clients who are just a couple of years away from a potential exit if they want to go that route or if they want to hand it to family or the next generation. It's going to be up to them, but that's not something that I really anticipate, or it's not something you always think about, but they've told me the challenges that their clients have encountered, and it pops in my head, oh, that's something that we should probably be planning for. So a number of different things. It's the networking, it's the referrals, it's the speaking referrals, but then it's also just seeing what other challenges are real life businesses encountering that might apply to myself first and foremost, or my clients, or other things I may encounter. And it ties together beautifully. Um, but like I said, I would have designed that from the start. It's just kind of one of those things that's evolved and presented itself. And who knows, that could change in another 30 episodes. When we get to episode 500, I don't know what the purpose is going to be. Maybe we charge for sponsors. Maybe I throw the whole podcast away. I don't know. I'm open to anything. It's going to evolve though.
Nice, nice. Now, there's another interesting thing here in that I was under the impression it was really business type content and things like that. And then you mentioned that you have Steve McKinney on, who's a mutual friend, and I have his book too. It's pretty incredible.
You know,
Um,
Steve, that's fantastic. Shout out to
great, great
Steve.
guy.
You're a rock star.
Shout out to Steve, 100%. And he's a great guy, and it was a great interview. But then that kind of makes me wonder, what do you use for not a standard necessarily, but as a guideline for who you bring on your podcast? What is there a theme, or is it, topic of the day? Is it what you're interested in at that time?
Yes, all of those things.
And it's your podcast, so you can do whatever you want with it. But
Yeah,
I'm just
right.
curious, right?
The rules are there are no rules.
Nice.
That's kind of it. I do like to stick to a general theme of about 80% of the episodes are something business, whether it's somebody's success story or potentially failure story. We've had a couple of those. Those are cool. But in terms of business or a guest expert. So Steve wouldn't be a good example, but SEO, someone who's an SEO expert or how to grow your Instagram, um, how to hire people. I don't know. We've had everything on the show. The other 20% is the rest of what it takes to build the whole entrepreneur. So that's really the theme is a holistic view on entrepreneurship and being really excelling in business because it's so much more than just having the right tactics and strategy. That's a big part of it. That's why it's the 80%. But that other 20 is crucial for sustainability, success. So Steve is a great example of personal health. You have to be healthy or else you won't be able to get out of bed. And if you can't get out of bed, you probably can't run a business. You have to have your mindset right. So we have a lot of mindset episodes, relationships, even. That's something that I really didn't consider at the beginning, but then I had a couple of guests on who talked about relationships with your spouse, your kids, and then taking that and bringing it to the workplace and building relationships with your employees. And I was like, wow, that's such a missed opportunity if we don't talk about that. So we talk about everything. It's just I separated into those two buckets, those 80/20 buckets of like the business stuff, but then everything else. And I personally, I am yet to find something that doesn't fit in the other 20%. Because that's life, right? Like that's
Right.
what it is to be a human being. There's so much more than just whatever your specialty is. And the more you can tie those together, I think the happier you'll be, but also the more successful you'll be at whatever it is you're doing.
Great answer. Great answer. And hey, I am a big advocate for it's your podcast. You can do what you want, but the 80/20 rule, the way you described it, is a fantastic way for podcasters to, I think, maybe keep that in mind when they're looking for content. I think too often we get a little too, tunnel visioned. Like, this is my topic. It has to just be about this, an expert in this field, and like, that's it. and you don't even take into account how all these other things impact that topic, And so I love that you're doing that. Um, as you have built this podcast up, and I mean, my gosh, over 350 episodes is great. You've been doing a fantastic job with it. As you've been building it along the way, has it changed so far? Like, how did it start off to where it is now?
I think there's two huge changes, I think. The first one was the name of the show is Harmonious at Lunch. There was a reason behind that. I didn't just pick a terrible name for a podcast and roll with it. It just happened that way. Yeah, I hate the name. It's something I think about it every time I'm introducing the show. I'm like, still, I didn't change this yet. But anyway, so I wanted to do live interviews at lunchtime, hence the name, and talk about Harmonious, our business operating system. So what started to happen was I was getting guests from a couple different Facebook groups, and I'm not going to say it was the best quality groups, but nobody showed up. So we had the first 20
Oh
episodes, I
no.
think 9 or 10 of them were solo episodes. I'm like, this is the worst thing in the world because we would launch it on Facebook and social media. We would live stream it. So the topic of the day was there was one that just totally pushed me over the edge. It was something like how your personal health impacts getting leads. And I was like, I don't know the first thing to even talk about on this episode. But that was the promised topic that people registered that they were going to hear the episode. And I was so mad. I showed up and I was like, this is going to be a stupid episode. And I really don't even want to do it. But I guess we're going to talk about getting leads and how that relates to your personal health. And I like lost it. So I said, okay, I have to bulk record. Like there's no more live streams. This was the dumbest idea I've ever had. And I'm a complete idiot. That is true. But so we started bulk recording. The second biggest flip was I was a little too, I'll say, set on where people fit, where guests fit in our architecture. So the harmonious business model, it's an acronym. So there's 10 disciplines in business that must be present for a successful business. Think about them like volume knobs, right? Like Johnson and Johnson's going to have a different complexity and makeup than two guys in a taco truck, but the principles are the same. So I wanted to sort of like pigeonhole guests into um, where they fit, which discipline that we were talking about, and sort of educating the listener on how that ties into running an effective business. And it didn't feel right to me. I was like, I'm not having any fun doing this. It's like a homework assignment rather than just an authentic conversation. So those were the two big changes. But the live episodes one was by far the biggest mistake, but also a really funny outcome from how that transpired.
All right, so there have been a couple of little detours along the way. But
A little bit.
that's one of the beautiful parts about having a podcast is, you try something, you see how it works, you kick the tires, you throw it against the wall. If it doesn't stick, you clean up the mess, you turn around and you go a different direction, right? It's yours. You don't have
Yep.
anybody who's telling you you can or can't do that. So, I mean, I admire the idea of trying to get a live stream, going when there's so many other things that impact that. The best part about just recording is that it could be, 2 o'clock in the morning in a dark room, and you could just be recording into your microphone. Nobody knows. You go to video, at least you have to look decent before you get going. But I mean, hey, it could be 3 o'clock in the
I
morning
don't
right now,
check
and nobody
that
would
box.
know.
Just for the record, there's none of that over here. But yeah, I hear you.
Absolutely. So I love that. That's really cool. Now, obviously, you don't know where that's going to go, but uh, along the way, what have you done to promote the podcast itself? Um, since it's not necessarily a piece of human up.
So the promotion in the beginning was the live stream, which is
Okay.
part of the reason for doing that, and even doing the podcast in general. A smaller piece of that was I don't like social media, and I don't like posting content. I don't want to be on these apps, whether it's on my phone or on my computer. To me, nothing good ever comes from it. So I'm like, this is just such a waste of time. But I know you do have to do it, and air quotes, there's all these rules, right? So that was a lot of the promotion, and we would like tag different people in the episodes. We would post clips from it. I don't know if you use anything like Opus Clip. I'm a huge fan. Great tool to be able to cut up clips. And that was kind of it in the beginning. I didn't see a whole lot of traction from it. So I would I'd post a clip or two a day. We'd post the episode on Facebook, LinkedIn, in a private Facebook group, a couple other areas. We would send out a monthly recap email of the most downloaded episodes from the month, the top 5 most downloaded episodes. And I again took a step back and said, okay, how much time am I investing in this? And is there any return? Because again, the podcast is not designed, even to this day, to get leads or be any source of revenue or income. And but it was sucking a lot of my time.
Right.
So I said, is any of this working? And is any of this actually worth it? Do I have proof that what I'm doing is going to provide any sort of return? And it was really no. So I said, all right, well, what are the things that I can do that are easy, that don't really take any much more of my time, but might potentially have a benefit? So I stopped nearly everything except for we use Opus, as I said. So I get about 20 clips per episode. We put all of them on YouTube as shorts and just spam post them. And whatever hits, hits, and whatever doesn't, I do not care. But we've grown our YouTube following pretty significantly in a year for doing like absolutely nothing. Um, and we have a pretty good listener base for a number of download. We average a pretty good number of downloads across all the different platforms. I post audio and video, so YouTube plus all the audio networks plus audio on YouTube.
Yeah.
And for not having goals or metrics around what I want that to look like, because it's just again, that's not what it was designed for. I think it's actually turned out pretty good. So the short answer to the question is, what do I do now? Next to nothing. I've scaled back everything. We do have a team in place now who's going to start pushing out like real content. They're going to put effort into it. Imagine that. Like they're going to actually care, something I couldn't do.
They're going to put effort into it. That's a great
Yeah.
strategy. I like that.
So I'll let you know how that turns out. But for right now, it's really just spamming YouTube with shorts.
Nice. I appreciate your honesty about it. I mean, there are some people who come on here and and they're like, "Oh yeah, I post 14 times a day," and I'm like, "I looked you up before I had you on the show." No, you don't. You know,
That's always good.
but it's your story. I mean, okay, go ahead. You know, so and you're just like, I really don't do anything. I love it. It's a great answer. It's the truth. So that's awesome, man. It really is. All right, let me, in just in the course of time, let me hit you with my corny question, right? So get ready because there's a big build up to my corny
I actually
question to ask
haven't thought
everybody.
about anything else except what this question could be the
There
whole
you go.
time.
All right. The basically it's in regard to the podcast. When you're doing the podcast, what is it the thing? What is it about doing the podcast that you love the most? And what is it about doing the podcast that you just absolutely positively hate the most? And you may have actually answered both these questions already in context, but I'm going to let you be a little more succinct.
Yeah, love the most. It's got to be the people. It's the stories, the connections, the just discovering the things that you've never heard before and never probably would have heard, except if it was in this context. So that's super cool. Um, Absolutely hate. The social media is the obvious one that I clearly just talked about. I think it's all of the like the posting of it too. I mean, if you should go look at some of the descriptions on the episodes. Like they're so bad. I have a really good prompt that I use for Gemini, and Gemini is my best friend. Um, that includes people that I know too. Like I like Gemini way better than most of the people I know. But
Okay.
it's just like I can't stand this. I don't want to be doing this. I wish there was a robot. I'm actually building a robot right before I got on this episode to post the episode. So that is in development. But social media and actually posting the episodes, I would rather do almost anything else on earth than those two things.
All right. Like I said, I think I kind of got that from your earlier answers. I was like, I think he answered this already, but we'll just see because maybe something new is going to come up. Nope. Double down on the social media. I
Oh
get it.
yeah.
I
Oh yeah.
really do get it. I understand. Listen, I love it. I love all of it. I enjoyed your podcast when I listened to it, especially that one episode about the Dante guy. That was interesting. I'm planning on catching some more of it too, but I hope that you're planning to continue it. Yes,
I am, I promise. It's the actual conversation, the recording of the podcast, I love. That is my hobby. That's what lights me up 100%. I just got to figure out all the other stuff. But yes, the podcast will continue.
I love it. I'm really glad to hear that. All right. So as we kind of wrap things up here, and I really do appreciate you coming on, sharing all this, and telling us about Human Up. That's really interesting stuff, and we'll have that link in the show notes for people. So thank you for coming on and doing what you've done. But let me hit you with my last question, and that is, what's one piece of advice you have for podcasters who are not quite where you are yet? And of course, at 350 episodes, that's a lot of people who are not quite where you are. So what's, sort of your best nugget for them?
Well, it depends. It's do we take the 350 or are people not yet delusional? Because like hopefully you're not delusional like me yet either. But I would say the easy advice is do what lights you up and not what you think needs to be done or what you think people will listen to. That was my sort of my big takeaway when we made that transition of the episode format, not the live, but like fitting things into weird boxes and trying to put out scripted episodes. They didn't get received well. Even the guests didn't really light up with those type of interviews. Once we just like I said, I'm here to have fun. I'm here to have a good conversation. That's what I tell all my guests now. They're like, "What can we do?" I'm like, "Have a great conversation and have a good time." And if
Yep.
we can do that, we're going to put out a really good episode and great content. And that has never let me down. But there's no way I could do that if I wasn't actually passionate about what we were talking about or I like over scripted what it was going to be. So that's the biggest thing is be authentically you and do the things that truly light you up because I mean you even pointed out to me, right? People can feel it. And if they can't feel that, they're not going to listen to it, they're not going to watch it. It's just more noise on the internet and we don't need any more of that.
Wonderful. I love that advice. I mean, that's very strong, very definitive, very you, actually. It
Very me.
doesn't surprise me at all to hear that coming from you. So, great advice to end with. Brandon Gano, host of Harmonious at Lunch. Check out the podcast, folks. Brandon, thanks so much for coming on today, man, and just sharing all this. I really do appreciate it. It's been great getting to know you.
Thanks for having me, Rory. This was a ton of fun.
Thank you. That's the best compliment I could get right there. I'm glad. Thank you. Folks, this has been another fun episode of the Podcaster Nation. I hope that everybody enjoyed it. This is the podcast that's about podcasters, it's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. This really is the place where the rising tide raises all ships. So keep sailing.